Preparing for this talk today, I found myself once again turning towards the teachings of nature for inspiration and direction. Over the Thanksgiving holiday, I rewatched one of my most favorite movies. And I'll say it's sort of become a holiday movie for me. It's March of the Penguins. You might remember this 2005 documentary is narrated by the booming and beautiful voice of Morgan Freeman. The documentary follows a group of emperor penguins through a year in the life of the colony, including the difficulty of hatching baby penguin chicks against the backdrop of the harsh Antarctic climate. There are, and I mean this both playfully and with an eye towards our current social and political climate, lessons in this colony of penguins, lessons in resiliency, endurance, the power of community, and yes, even hope. The power of choosing hope as a spiritual practice that transcends and is transcendent of our current conditions, both our inner worlds and our outer circumstances. For example, one of the things we learn about the lives of emperor penguins is that the eggs must be carefully protected during the season of gestation. The penguin parents carefully perch the egg on top of their feet and enfold it in the warmth of their penguin bellies. Parents take turns leaving the colony, which is stood on the wide open expanses of an ice shelf. They leave to feed in the ocean and return for their caregiving responsibilities. The journey back and forth is precarious, and while one parent is feeding, the other is huddled with the colony enduring storms and brutal temperatures. I love Reverend Michelle Collins' observation about the life of penguins as they carefully tend to the eggs huddled together during the coldest days. She writes, quote, "When the winds blow hardest, the huddle moves as one, a walking fortress of hope, made from ordinary birds choosing extraordinary cooperation. Inside the huddle, temperatures rise to a comfortable 75 degrees. The penguins have created summer in the heart of winter." It's easy to relate to the lives of the emperor penguins, admire their endurance and the marvelous way their community is shaped by cooperation and survival. The way the penguins take turns moving between the center and the edge of the huddle in response, and maybe in defiance of, the wild winter that surrounds them with so much uncertainty and chaos. And I wonder if we, Unitarian Universalists, can do the same thing. Build a fortress of hope that defies the odds. How do we live hopefully in the presence of so much uncertainty? On any given day, really every day these days, we're bombarded with news that threatens our collective future and the future of our planet. Life is perpetually caught in a matrix of uncertainty shaped and formed by the winds of change, which are cold and caustic at times. At other times, the tender fragility of life is revealed to us in illness, a job loss, a new love arrives, a new babe is born, and gosh, life opens up before us in a landscape of unpredictability. It would be easy to surrender to the uncertainty and allow a perfectly reasonable cynicism to creep into our worldview and succumb to the ache of despair or the promises of a shallow optimism, an optimism that would deny the realities of our world or the harsh, cruel circumstances. The penguins may be able to create a cozy warmth in the heart of winter, but they likely don't believe they have relocated to a tropical island. I say this with a gentle laugh, but it feels serious. Does hope ask us to forget or deny how very uncertain and painful life can be? Does being hopeful tempt us into a life of quaint optimism? Writer, historian, and activist Rebecca Solnit offers a helpful insight about the nature of hope. She writes, quote, "Hope locates itself in the premises that we don't know what will happen, and that in the spaciousness of uncertainty is room to act. When you recognize uncertainty, you recognize that you may be able to influence the outcomes, you alone or you in concert with a few dozen or several million others. Hope is an embrace of the unknown and knowable, an alternative to the certainty of both optimists and pessimists. For Solnit, hope emerges from uncertainty itself and the spaciousness of not knowing. In that spaciousness, there are opportunities, possibilities, and clarity of purpose and action. It is in the not knowing that there is so much to discover and learn. Her emphasis on action alone or in concert with a few dozen or several million others is an antidote to shallow optimism and the despair of pessimism. And this seems vitally important. It names hope as a choice, as an agency of our lives, as a location for new worlds to be born, built, and discovered. Warmth in the harshest of winters, decorating evergreen trees with tender memories and celebrating this season of expectant waiting and preparation for a future just on the horizon. This, and these are choices of hope. And I notice, and I hope you do too, I notice hope emerging from the uncertain yet exciting conversations around a new fellowship hall. Perhaps you hear the whispers of hope too, and maybe you notice what I notice. Together we are imagining a fortress of hope. And we are building a community that chooses a future in which our life-affirming, life-saving message of hope and love survives and thrives, even in the most daunting of circumstances. A fortress of hope embodied perhaps in a new building that serves not just our Unitarian Universalist community, but a space that celebrates our values and networks of solidarity, support, and creative and generative partnerships that amplifies the best of who we are. The best of who we are as a community, a Durango community. We can find ground and inspiration in this conversation about a practical hope from the teachings of Buddhist environmental activist and teacher Joanna Macy, who helps us understand hope as a practical spiritual practice. And she calls this active hope. She writes, quote, "Active hope is a practice. Like Tai Chi or gardening, it is something we do rather than something we have. It is a process we can apply to any situation, and it involves 3 key steps. First, we take a clear view of reality. That means holding it for all that it is and not hiding. Second, we identify what we hope for in terms of the direction we'd like things to move in or the values we'd like to see expressed. We anchor into the best of who we are, our Unitarian Universalist values. And third, we take steps to move ourselves or our situation in that direction." Joanna Macy's instructions remind us and empower us to choose hope and to practice a practical application of hope in our lives. When we are clear about our values and the world we are committed to creating together, we can take action and live hope in our world, changing the world with our hope. Active hope is manifested in each intentional choice we make as aligned with our spiritual values of justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. Active hope is a collective commitment to living with love at the very center of our lives, even when love feels far away. This season of Advent, let us remember that choosing to hope today is a radical act of love. It claims a future not yet born. It lives with uncertainty, yet refuses to be limited by it. Advent, a journey of spirit, reminds us that we do not have to wait for another time, another day, that we have the courage and the power to ignite the light of hope, even as and in the presence of the season of renewal and the glorious regenerative cloak of night that is reshaping our lives for a new day. Choosing hope is surrendering to the embrace of possibility in ourselves and in our world. Let us be a fortress of hope for the world. May it be so, and blessed be.